He himself will faint. His wife will apply for divorce. His mother will disown him. Because the thoughts that go through. Yeah, people call somebody a saint and all only because they don't know him. Thank God. Yeah, if people know everybody, then everybody will keep away. The closer you know people, the farther you get away from him, at least emotionally. So the best friends are the people who know very little. The more you know, the selfishness, and the evil thoughts, and everything else. It's there. It's there. The covetousness is there. The anger, the frustration, the depressive thinking, suicidal mentality, Even when we look for, people go for window shopping, you know what's going through. They go stand there outside that big glass window, see that nice frock there, and this thing is there, and that thing is there, everything there. They stand there for hours and marvel at them, and then go cursing themselves, I don't have the money. Some people spend most of their time in window shopping. They have no money to buy it, but at least have the satisfaction of. Yeah. Very few people will sit down and have, lesser thoughts of themselves. And some people have, why God made me like this? Why should I live? I'm a burden for everybody. I should go and die myself. And that sort of thoughts. Most of the dreams are good, right? Dreams. Most of the dreams are good in the sense, not morally good, of a high quality. That's what most of the people would do. One bright morning, a captain came out. His cook was sitting by the door and thinking. So captain said, no breakfast? No, sir. Nothing in the kitchen to cook breakfast. What are you doing? I was dreaming about a breakfast. Why did you dream? He said, well, a couple of pieces of bread with a little achar. He gave him 2 slaps and said, rascal, if you are dreaming, why can't you dream about some steaks and some... And it doesn't cost you anything. At least you can dream about something. With these 2 pieces of bread with a little achar. When you dream, you should dream something good. But even there, I said, we are so depraved sometimes, we cannot even dream correct. Yes, our dreams are also. So sin is something, I won't say abnormal, subnormal most of the time. Sin is not normal. It's sometimes abnormal, sometimes subnormal. Yes, God made man a normal creature. Man made himself either, sometimes abnormal, sometimes subnormal. Anyway, he is not in the good shape. Sin is a negative response to God. A negative response to God. Man was created with a capacity to respond the way he chooses. Negative response is sin. That's what man has. When God came and asked man, talked with Adam and Eve, no positive response came. They are running away, stitching the leaves of the fig tree as a temporary makeshift apron, and then accusing God, saying, God, that the woman you gave, hey, why did he? Hey, she, you gave. That's what it said. But basically said there is a defect in your design. You should have designed a woman who will not be cheated by Satan. You made susceptible for cheating and she ate. Well, so again God. And Eve also said. Not a positive statement. Not a positive. God, you are so holy. And we goofed it. It's forgive us, we have done it. Even though that's about sin, we have sinned, have mercy on us. That would have been a positive statement. But said, no, we don't want no mercy. They were asking for any mercy. They didn't say, forgive us. They said, don't throw us out. Nothing. They only wanted to accuse God. But God was gracious because God wanted to redeem part of humanity at least. Because, God's creation, if no man in heaven, only angels, it won't be a failure on the part of God, but then, we all would have been in hell. Think of that. So God made provision for all these things. Where is God's love displayed most? Where is God's love displayed most? Most people will say on the Calvary. I agree. But really? When God decided to create man, He knew immediately, either by His own choice, how He knew, that's all we talked about. But He knew immediately this man will sin, and one day this man will kill Jesus Christ. What should God do? If we were God, what we would have done? We will stop that project, right? Something that cost God's Son. But God did not. So God went ahead and did the creation. Isn't God's love displayed there? If you are making something, you knew that toy will kill your only son. What would you do? You would destroy that, abandon the project, right? But if you go ahead and make it and then that toy killed your son, everybody will say that's hatred for the son, right? Because you wanted your son to be killed. That's hatred because there is no purpose in getting your son killed. But there is a greater purpose in the death of his son. That is to redeem the humanity. So that's great love. Well, the greatest, great love. Well, then one day God sat down, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, sat down in the mud. He was taking the earth and making it and, pouring water on it and make a paste and shaping the man and everything. As he was shaping, everything, and the head immediately thought, it is with this brain he is going to plan my death on cross. What should you have done? If I was there, I would just do like this. The head will go flat like a puppet. And he was shaping the hand and said, this hand will take the hammer and the nail. What I'll do, I'll break it into pieces and throw it away. He didn't do anything. He made us. Isn't that love? Isn't that love? So what I mean to say that at every stage of creation and redemption, God's love is perfect. It simply cannot say the greatest love is on Calvary's cross. I say greatest love is from the beginning to the end. It's all an act of grace, act of love. When we say God is love, that statement we have to understand. So anyway, man's sinfulness is, it's an unnatural thing because God did not make us naturally like that. It's a negative response. It's not a positive response. And also man's sin, after sinning, sin became so inherent part of man. Talking about the total depravity, every part of man is corrupted. So that we can never again be holy. In John chapter 8 verse 34, we have the statement, whoever commits sin is a slave of sin. Whoever commits sin, പാപം ചെയ്യുന്നവനെല്ലാം പാപത്തിൻ്റെ ദാസൻ. He is a slave of sin. So sin has not only corrupted our nature, But the fact is we are slaves of sin. So what does that mean? Slave means what? Huh? What is a servant or what is a slave?
Obey the master.
Obey the master. To go a little more further, the essence of service or a servant is to please the master. Remember the story our Lord said, a servant working in the field all day and he comes back at 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the evening. What did the master say? You go prepare, you go prepare the food I like, then you bring it, feed me, and then put me to sleep. After I sleep, you go and eat something. So that means he is a servant dedicated totally to please for the pleasure, the enjoyment of the master. So when you are a slave of sin means you will keep on doing things that will please sin. That's what you do. Everyone who practices sin is pleasing sin. In Romans chapter 1, we have the spiritual biography of humanity. It's a portion you have to study very well. The spiritual biography of humanity is there in Romans chapter 1 verses 17 through 32. So beautifully. You know how it ends up? It ends up saying that after giving a list of sin, saying, not only do these things, but they are pleased in those who do these sins. Who approve? Who approve? In another sense that, people, not only that we do the sin, but the acceptance and the approval in this world is for people who practice such sins. So people are looking for somebody who will please sin more. Yeah, they approve it. They approve it. Is that a terrible statement? My Bible says, but they have pleasure in them that do them. They have pleasure in them that do them. Think that's so pleasing. Sinful people are pleased in people who do greater sin and greater sin. So there is one sin that is listed in there, inventing new sins. Yes, inventors of new sins. Verse 30, yeah. Inventors of evil things. Every day, millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent in research on sin. How to do new ways of sin. How to do new ways of sin. It's being invented. Every day, spend millions of dollars on research. How we can sin more. Yeah. Some of the dirtiest things they are doing on sexual areas and robberies and every areas they are doing, how to do your sin, perfect your sin in a better way.
The sin in itself is a concept, no? It's someone says is pleasing the sin or slaves of sin.
Yes.
There's no person behind it.
Yeah, you are the person behind it. I'm the person behind it. I mean, sin does not exist independently. No. You cannot say, hey, come here, I'll show you sin. Hey, look way up there, there's sin. No, there's no sin. Say, I want to show sin, look at there. Sin is the resident manager of humanity after Adam ate that fruit. Before that it was not sin, it was God the resident manager. Holiness and righteousness were the resident managers. But now sin has taken the resident manager. How to do more pleasurably sin? I'm ashamed to say some of these things because it will come in the some of the areas the research is going on in sin, like experimenting drugs and latest drugs. And what is the latest drugs? I have a friend who is working with the excise department. So his job is actually educating college students and all that against, drugs and alcohol and all this. So I asked him, Benny, what is the latest in the, in the sin department? So they have to go and, arrest and take and raid places. And he said it's a small stamp. Very small stamp. Stamp. Yes. That like you put on the envelopes and all. It's a very small stamp-like thing. You peel it off and lick it once on your tongue. You give it to a girl and she will lick it. Then in 2 minutes she will come after you because her sexual passions are aroused. It has to be satisfied. She will walk with that boy and do anything he wants. So campuses, people are exchanging these things, See the research going on. Innocent little child, maybe it's a 14, 15-year-old girl, maybe say, you want to lick on it, girl? Yeah. And then in 5 minutes that she will be walking with him. Think of that. So research being done. That's inventors of evil things. They are inventing new ways of committing sin. The total depravity has gone to that extent. We parents who are staying at home, it's very hard to protect our children anymore. Very difficult because the market is so bad. Sinning, people take pleasure in people who sin. Half a dozen young people or young girls getting together, they are talking about what is the highest sin they have lately done. That's what they are discussing. We were running a boys' home, and they were all young children, 8th graders and 9th graders and all. So, these boys were practicing evil. Found out some of these boys were practicing. So they were caught and said, where do you get these things? It's from school. What do you do? During the break time, we go to the bathroom, we all share, in the little mobile phones they have these pictures of wicked, all kinds of evil. And so the headmistress was told by us and that there is problem here. One day she raided all classrooms, 8th graders classrooms, and taken out a whole bunch of, evil things. Then called the parents and said, this is what your children are doing in spare time. The sad thing, a lot of parents said, you have no business of watching my boys' backs. Because they are watching the same thing at home. The children only, taking it out. Our world is a perverted world. When Paul wrote the book of Romans, comparatively it was 100 times better than our world. Paul had no idea. Of course he had idea because in Romans chapter 1 he has said everything. What are the stages, 7 stages of human, spiritual history. It will go down and we are in the last stage where people take great pleasure in doing it. The holy wood and the Bollywood and whatever other woods there are, it's all doing the same thing. Yes. It's no more sin. People say that, only Swami Vivekananda said that it is a sin to call man a sinner. I don't know what he meant by that. I mean, what else you can call them? But today, if that man was around here, he would have said that it is a sin not to call man a sinner, because it has gone to that extent. So the depravity is it's a big thing. The mind commands the body and it obeys it instantly. The mind commands the body and it obeys it instantly. Every sinful action begins in the mind as a thought. Whether it's adultery or robbery or murder or anything, it begins in the mind as a thought. In some minds it does not become fruitful, only because the man's personality is a coward. He doesn't have the courage to do it. Standing there, in the ATM, many people think that, boy, if I put this and punch it and it just keep on punch, 100,000 rupees notes, so the whole notes come out, and then, that's what the thoughts going on. But the machine does not obey it. There are people whose mind is little smarter, they know how to do it. You are in the bank and crores of rupees are there on the table of the cashier, on the table. And if there is nobody in the bank, what will you do? Nobody. You looked around and there is nobody in the bank, only on the counter of the cashier you can put your hand through and get it. What percentage of people will immediately call the police or somebody and say that there is nobody here, millions of rupees is left on the table? The most righteous person may take 2 or 3 bundles and slowly leave. May not take everything. Nowadays we won't do, because sensible people know that there are cameras watching there, who may not do it. But how many will not have the thought, at least passing, wow, look at the notes. Most of us don't do it because we know the consequences of doing it. Then we will be caught and we will be taken to the police station and they will be doing massaging and all that, And the consequences is what keeps us, not the hatred for stealing. Chrysostom is a metropolitan in Kerala. He once visited the jail and he said that, bunch of thieves inside the jail and bunch of thieves outside the jail. But that's true. So we are smarter because we are thieves who are not caught. You have to smarten up your methodology a little bit so that you are not caught. And that's true. The smartest ones are not caught. So what means that every sin begins in a thought. That's why in Mark chapter 7 Jesus said, out of the mind of man comes evil thoughts, the first 8. And then adultery and fornication and all that.
The thought in itself is not sin.
Well, that's a very good question. Is thought in itself? Yes. Evil thoughts is a sin. Thoughts are only when you think, right?
It comes just like that.
But it comes only when you think.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have thought it.
But
if thoughts come without thinking, then it is not a sin. Yeah, if thoughts come without thinking, then it's not a sin because you didn't think. Where it flies and goes. But what do you mean to say that you have not necessarily invited the thought? That may be true, but you have definitely thought the thought. You have definitely thought the thought. That's why when we are sleeping, we are not thinking. Yeah. The dreams come in our semi-consciousness, but we are not thinking. If somebody is sleeping very well, he will not be thinking. At least, intelligent thoughts may come. He may be thinking, but irrational thoughts may be. So sinful thoughts are what we think, and because we think sinful thoughts, the only difference is they are not come to the last stage of sin. James said that. James in his epistle said that there are 3 stages, right? moham, lust, then pregnancy, then childbirth. Okay. Yeah. If the moham itself is a sin, but however the fruitfulness of the sin is there. In another sense, that when the sin has come and it never put into action, and we just say, sorry Lord, what I was thinking, oh, what was the thing, I'm not supposed to, the Lord forgives it. There is a punishment for sinful thoughts are much less than the other thing. Yeah. See, Jesus said, if you look at a woman for lusting her, only in thoughts, right? He's not talking about what the young people today are doing, raping or touching or anything. No, he's only thought about. So the Lord said, you have already committed adultery. Already committed adultery. It's all in the mind only. Nobody, the other person may not be even knowing about what you are thinking. But the Lord said, you have already committed adultery. So then evil thoughts are sinful. Yes. But the ramifications are less. A person who lusted a woman as opposed to a person who committed, adultery with a woman, that different kinds of, that's all. But you cannot say that this is holiness and that is sinfulness. No. We'll take a break.